All right, welcome to day 2 of Write Your Bestseller 5-day challenge. It is the holiday season. We are nearing the end of 2024 and looking into 2025, and we're wrapping up the year with a bang so that we can get into the new year with momentum. And so yesterday we were talking about what powerful hot topics can you be writing about? And the key to that is finding the sweet spot between, like, what is your brilliance? What is your general topic? And what are people asking questions about? What are people seeking? Because it always happens after the holidays into the new year, people kind of reassess our lives, right? We're thinking, oh, um, I wish I had somebody to spend time with over the holidays, or, oh, I need to repair family relationships, or, oh, I need more money to spend on Christmas things next year. Whatever it is for them, at the end of a year, beginning of the year, we all look at our lives and go, I need this. And so, whatever that is that they need, whatever it is that they're seeking, we want you, your book, and your online course to be served up on a silver platter to answer that question for them. They are seeking you. So, yesterday we talked about your topic. Today we're going to talk about your unique brilliance. So, there are 4 components that I encourage our authors to have in every book. These 4 components may bring out your brilliance. If not, we can talk about it further. Okay. So the first part, and I go into a full 1-hour workshop with worksheets on this. There's actually a recording inside of the Bestsellers Guild. If you need help finding that, let me know and I'll get that to you. But the 4 components are this. We always start with your dip, what Lisa Nichols calls a dip. Sometimes she calls it a valley. And that is to start with the big U, go into that catalyst moment, that phoenix moment that you had in relation to this specific topic, and why it's important for you to share this. We do this initially as early as possible in a book because we want to build that know, like, and trust factor. And the reason that this is important is we want people to relate to us as humans. If they see us on a pedestal and they don't see that we too have been there, done that, they may read our book and think, well, they're telling me what to do, but I don't know that I believe it. And I don't know that it's right for me. So when we start with a visible, vulnerable, authentic moment of, here's who I am today in relation to this topic, which is almost always where they want to be. It wasn't always that way, which is usually a phoenix moment that we had, that moment where enough is enough, or we realize something's got to change. We've all got that story, whatever it is, right? And then you come up out of that, which is your phoenix moment where you rise from the ashes, you figure it all out, and then ultimately you want to share it with them. Why do you want to share it with them? Be honest, be visible, be vulnerable, authentic. I want you to get there sooner, quicker, faster. I want you to have less turmoil. I want you to have this answer on a silver platter so that you don't have to go through what I went through, right? That's usually what it is. It's a heartfelt moment. So that allows them to easily receive the advice you give them from that point on. So don't just start right out the gate with do this, do that, do this, do that. Give them a reason to trust you. Give them a reason to like you and relate to you. So I like to use the example of Barbara Walters and Oprah Winfrey. Both absolutely phenomenal in their craft, right? Barbara Walters is very polished. She's gotten interviews that nobody else could get, very well respected, but she has this kind of cold distance about her. And if she were to give us life advice, we would think, oh, but she comes from money. She doesn't know turmoil. She's not been where I am. She, has this, that, whatever, all these advantages, right? We really don't know, but from what she puts out, we assume these things.
Mhm.
And if you aren't willing to be visible and vulnerable, people are going to think the same about you. Then there's Oprah. Oprah, we have seen her do the ugly cry. We've cheered her on to Mary Stedman, which she never will, but that's okay. I think we've all accepted it now. We've met her dogs. We've seen her do a road trip with her bestie Gail. Ooh, that was a hot mess and so much fun to watch. Very vulnerable, very visible, right? So the difference is when Oprah tells us something, we're like, okay, I can see that. She's been there, done that, had some bumps and bruises and overcome some things. So yeah, maybe she's got a point there. So we want to be the Oprah and not the Barbara Walters. Get that trust, right? So that's the first component you want. The second part is really the meat and potatoes of your book. It is this is the thing that you're dying to tell people. It's the conversation you most often have. It's that aha you're dying to share. It's that thing that we accidentally tend to lead with in our marketing of the how. What people really want in our marketing is the results. They want to hear the sizzle. They want to hear the result at the end. They don't want to hear the work. We're excited about the how because it's this phenomenal thing that if they just knew, it would make all the difference in the world. And that's where your secret sauce lies. And it's easiest if I can have a conversation with you and really hone in and get a real beat on that. So we can talk about this. I'll circle back around at the end. Okay. And for those of you who are watching on the replay, you can post inside the group and we can talk about it. But this is that thing that you're just dying to share. It's that how. It's that juicy conversation. If you're sitting next to your ideal client in airport or doctor's office and you strike up a conversation, you're like, oh, you've got to know this. If you know this, I only have a few minutes with you, but you've got to know this. It'll change your life. It's that thing you're dying to share. Okay. So that's your magic sauce. That's that thing that component your book has to have. And then here are the two parts that almost all books miss out on. The first, which is our third, okay, the first thing that most people miss out on is they don't give people motivation to take action. Because even when we want change, we still resist it. So you need to motivate people to get into action now, not later, because we all have the best of intentions, but don't quite make it around to it sometimes, and it gets put off. So we have to get right into the heart of the person we know is reading and say, like, your person best. You know where they are right now. You know what they're struggling with. You know the reason they're reading your book to begin with, right? So, for example, let's say, I know you may have lost hope, but I want to assure you that on the other side of this journey, you are going to find hope. You are going to find clarity, whatever it is. Okay. So we're recognizing and kind of poking their pain a little bit because we become comfortable in our pain. It becomes very familiar. We don't like it, but it's kind of like what do they say? It is a frog in a hot pot. You turn that up slowly. You just kind of become used to it over time. But if somebody pokes your pain, you're like, yeah, I I do feel that way. But then give them hope. It can be like this. And then give them a story, an example of, I should have done that sooner. It can be your story. It can be someone you've advised. It could be a story of a client. I have a client, Cheryl, who came to me and said, I met you in 2017. And at that point, I knew I wanted to. So for me, it would be get my book done. And I put it off and put it off. And I finally got my book done last year. And now I've got all these speaking engagements. My business has taken off. I can't believe it. I'm on speaking, I'm on stages now. And if I would have just done it sooner. So we're showing them an example. Well, we show them an example of a client that you've helped. That puts them into that story of, oh, she helps people. She can help me, right? But it also shows them, I need to move sooner. I need to do this now because there's good things on the other side and I need to take action now. Here's what I could miss out on. Here's what I could gain. And a lot of books miss this point. They don't take the time to motivate people to take action. It can be very simple. It doesn't have to be a whole chapter by any means. It can simply be a single paragraph if done well, really concisely. It can be layered with stories and easily motivate them and paint these stories where they get to see themselves in it, where they get to see themselves in the possibility of change. Because that's what they all want. Whatever reason that they're reading your book, they're looking for help and they want some sort of change. So let them see the change in somebody else. Let them realize what they're missing out on every day that goes by that they don't do this. Okay? Now, finally, the fourth thing, and it's my very favorite, and it's the easiest for me, is leave them with what to do next. There are so many great books out there that you just come to the end and it's the end. Wah, wah. Let's not do that anymore. What's next? What we really want is for this book to be the beginning of the conversation, for them to come to the end of the book and say, I need more of her, I need more of him, I need more of this, and then come engage with us online. That's what we really want. So tell them how, give them a what to do. I like to give 1 to 3 things that they can do immediately to make that needle move just a little bit of progress, just a little bit of hope, something they can do right now easily. So might be affirmations. You don't need to go buy anything. You don't need to go do anything. This is something they can start doing immediately and have some hope. It could be a worksheet, an exercise. Even better if it's a download from your website. Because when they're reading the book, the conversation is one way. You don't know what's ever happening. They're just reading the book. You don't know. When they come to your website, they give you their email address in order to get that worksheet or that free checklist or that supplement or whatever it is that's going to enhance their experience and continue their progress. Or it could be an audio or whatever it is. Now you have their information and it's a two-way conversation. They're telling you they've read your book, they're here for more information. You can now talk back to them and say, hey, I'm so glad you read my book. Here's more information. Let's have a conversation, right? Instead of just putting your book out into the world, like back in the day, people would write all the information in a book and that was it. That was the end of the story. We didn't have access to authors the way that we do now. And it was the entirety of the conversation because that was it. That was all we got. And authors didn't know who was reading or what they were doing with the information. But now it can be the beginning of the conversation and bring them right to us. So when you include these 4 elements in the book, it's an entire experience. And I specialize in short reads, 100 pages or less. So the information that you include should be impactful. It should include stories because people see themselves in stories. And it should have these 4 elements. And that second portion is the secret sauce. That's where the magic happens. It's that thing that you're dying to tell people. That thing that when you tell people, they say, oh, you've got to write a book. You need to write a book about this. And they're right, you do. So that is where the true magic happens. The rest of it is just packaging. So I hope that you figured out what your secret sauce is. If not, let's have a conversation about it. So For those of you who are on live today, would you like to have a conversation about what is your secret sauce in your book that you're currently working on? Devorah, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sure. It's so funny how everything is the same as everything else. I feel like it's a webinar in a book
Yeah.
in a way, right? Like
Yeah.
it's so interesting. And that we can do this now. Like never was a thing we could do.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, and adding that piece about why they have to do something now, I think is a significant factor that often as a teacher I don't focus on, because my secret sauce is like, okay, how do you go deep, tap into what I call your spiritual imagination in
Mm,
order to be able to access your higher calling? And I have a whole system that I call shift, shape, and share. How do you shift out of your old story and your
mm,
old patterns that have been keeping you stuck? And how do you begin to trust your intuition? Um, so it's like this shift out of the old, start to shape this new creative flow that you've never been able to focus on. You've
mm,
always had to launch your kids, your business, your work, your job, your parents, everybody else. And often women come to me in what I call the time that comes after, like
mm.
after your kids have left home or after long-term caregiving or divorce or God forbid, widow, like, and then there's this opening. Only a lot of times I haven't had a chance to figure out what's in there. What's in that opening? So my secret sauce is I have a tool that is unbelievably simple and powerful that will give you access every single time to your higher guidance through image and metaphor and story. And you will always get what is really true to your soul. And then you'll develop the confidence in it. You'll be able to shape it. And then you get to share it. Like I host a telesummit, so I put them on my telesummits. I make them tell their story, right? And I make them create a free gift. And so and it's really for women who are mostly over 50 who've already launched everybody and everything else out in the world, and now it's finally their turn.
Mm.
It's finally their turn to launch their creative spiritual soul calling out in the world. And I have my own in story way guided process that apps works for every time for every person. And so that's like what I could send them, go to my website to listen to the guided process,
I
right?
love
Like if it's from a book, right? When I do webinars and teachings, I lead it, right?
mhm.
So then they get a direct experience. But if it was in a book, then they could then go to the website, right? And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
you
And I
know,
love that for the signature thing being, how is it you said it? It's shift, shape,
shift,
share.
shape, and share.
I love that. That is absolutely signature.
Yeah,
And
that
you're
is
right.
totally my
Then being
thing.
able to go get from your website the download about, building their story. Love that. That's
Yeah.
absolutely what's next.
Right, right. So it really does work for them. And so I'm such a storyteller and a people person that just the writing of it into a book, I have a million emails and work, all these other things, but I've never really shaped it into the book form of it. Like it feels like it's all one thing, but it's which shape are you going to put it in?
Right, right. I love that. And I love that it's coming into a book because, yeah, having that book is key. Absolutely know that for the truth. Yes. We both know it. Thank you so much for sharing, Devorah. I appreciate it. Love it. Good clarity.
Thank
Valerie, I
you.
want to check in with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm actually I was actually working on a course, and it's about I what inspired it's called Empowered Living, Embracing Positivity, and
Mhm.
it's how to show people how to transform their life by changing their mindset so that they can find balance. I was on a group discussion with women between the ages of 35 and 45, maybe 47.
Mhm.
And what the issue was that kept coming up repeatedly was that they were frustrated because they couldn't really find balance in their lives. They're mothers, they have children that are of school age, and they were feeling like, I guess, frustrated and overwhelmed with all the tasks and everything else that go on. They never really had any time for themselves. And so that's what inspired me to do the empowered living, like show them ways how they can transform their life after identifying what their, as you put it, their pain points were. And so how can I then offer something that could help them not only benefit themselves by changing their mindset, but also get rid of some of that negative thinking and the conversations they have with themselves. I thought that's really what I want to focus on. And that was my inspiration.
I love that. I love that. And so are you going to do a book and then turn the book into an online course?
I'd rather do a book because I worked on the content for a course, but this is what I found. I did a research like statistics stuff, but it didn't really touch my heart. And so I thought, well, that's the element that it was missing because I didn't have, and I know now just with this conversation too, I didn't have relatable stories in there. I was referring to, I could tell you whatever, the scientist said and what's going on and so forth and so on. But at the end of it, I mean, I was excited and put all this time. And then at the end of it, I put it on hold because, again, it didn't touch my heart. So if it didn't touch my heart, how could it touch anybody else? So now I'm like, maybe you need to look at that and make it personal, more stories where it can empower people.
Yes, absolutely. And to me, it's like if your goal is to create a course, it's a no-brainer to write the book first and then create the course from the book. Because that's like once you've got the book done, everything else comes from that so easily. Like you're outlining a course as you're doing your book, whether you realize it or not, you know? So having that content, that the stuff that you're talking about is kind of the meat and potatoes of the book. It's the now what's the solution? But you're right, like we have to package it with story. We have to make it relatable. We have to motivate them. And you're right, if you're not feeling it, they're certainly not going to feel it. And it's just layering it with story. Now, if you start with the course in mind and you're starting with the technical part of go from step A to B to C, it can become a little dry. But if you're doing it from book to course, you have those stories because it's just natural when you're explaining something, especially in a book, for it to have layers of stories. And this is how it happened for this person, and this is how it played out for me, and this is what I found in doing that. And so that takes the dry, factual to-do list and makes it something relatable. So, and you've written many books and you've taught others to write books. You've been with me for a long, long time. And so I have no doubt that you're going to make this a beautiful book and easily be able to turn it into a powerful course. I love this topic. You can certainly help many women. You've been there, done that, and been through so much. So you'll certainly be able to help the women that you're now targeting to help them. And I'm sure like you've got those steps and you can look at their lives and go, I've been there, I've done that. Here's the easy to do that's going to make your life more fulfilling and less chaotic and more peaceful and better relationships. Because I know we've had those conversations. So I know that you've got those facts, but you're right. Like if you just now layer in the stories, I think it'll make all the difference. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so what did you say that the book and course was again? I read it earlier, but Say it once more.
It's called Empowered Living,
Empowered.
Embracing Positivity. So that's transforming your mindset. And I've always been a positive thinker and promoting positivity, but I
Yes.
never really looked at it in terms of helping a younger generation, or I would say the time for positivity. I always got a lot of pushback because I was this way. I mean, I am this way. Sometimes people want to hear it, sometimes they don't. But
Mhm.
I'm thinking now is the perfect time for it, is why I started working on the course maybe 3 months ago, is because the world needs this positive information. And there are a lot of women that are working women who are just overwhelmed by life itself. And now it's a different, I'm going to provide them with some tools on what they can use to change their life slowly but surely.
Mm. And, this generation that's up and coming, whether you're speaking to, it sounds like mostly millennials and elder millennials, or even the Gen Zs that are coming up, they're all much more receptive and looking for help, which I love, because our generation, it wasn't like that. We didn't readily look for it and seek it. Now they're seeking it, and you just have to be available to provide that to them. And they have more hardships than many generations have had. In fact, I saw a statistic just the other day that showed the difference between the hardships that were had during the Great Depression of 1920s, and where we are in our economy right now. There are some things that are worse than when the Great Depression, like our, cost of living versus, economy and things like that. So this generation that are now raising their kids and working full-time jobs and so on, and sometimes multiple jobs, are facing a lot of hardships and need that support more than ever. So I think you're perfect person to step in that gap and help them. That's awesome. Good stuff. Thank you both so much for being here today. Being able to talk to you guys just makes it so much more alive and lively. So I appreciate you being here. And for anyone who's watching on the replay, I want to hear, what is your secret sauce? What did you get from today? And what is the key thing in your book that people need to know about? And then Devorah, I see that you made some comments. I like this that you talked about calling it Shift, Shape, Share Soul Story System. The only thing is I love the Shift, Shape, Share. I love that. I think that you could probably put that in your title somewhere. But I also love that you already have a word that you use for your story system. So it could be Shift, Shape, Share to, I can't remember what you called the writing system that you have. What was
The
the
in
story?
story.
In story. So Shift, Shape,
The
and
name of my whole
Share.
story way is the name of my whole company and process and everything.
Yeah. So Shift, Shape, Share, and Share to your in-story system or something like that.
But the in-story way to, I could start together, the in-story way to shift, shape, and share your
Yeah.
soul calling or something like that.
Yeah. I love that. Good stuff. Good stuff today, ladies.
Beyond regret was this idea of that people, when they die, say their biggest regret is that they didn't live their soul purpose. They didn't live their purpose. They didn't do what they wanted. They fulfilled the expectations of others. When I read that, I was like, wow.
Yes. Yes. That's so true. All right. Thank you so much. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to post in the comments in the group. And I will be on again tomorrow at noon. So I will see you guys then. Have a beautiful day. Take care.